Hello, this is Aishwarya welcoming you to a fresh new episode of Science Monitor, our weekly update on all that is happening in the field of science and technology in and around the country. Besides some interesting news on anti-diarrheal vaccine to alarming prediction of a reduced rainfall in the country and the excitement of the new national health policy, we have lots in store for you today. But first, let us take a look at the headlines. Monsoon rainfall likely to reduce, predict experts. Experts gear up to develop new anti-diarrheal vaccine, MOU signed. Indian Academy of Sciences launch C.V. Raman a memoir. Farmer develops a novel harvester, multitasks without pollution. And in our In Focus segment, we will discuss about the national health policy and its advantages. Let us start the program with a not-so-welcome weather prediction. Well, experts have warned that agriculture might take a blow as a below-average rainfall is expected this year. Well, the rainfall has been predicted to drop as the El Nino phenomenon resurfaces this June. Well, according to studies, while June is likely to receive normal rainfall, the decline may start from July.
Monsoons are an eagerly awaited phenomena in India. Bringing relief to the scorching heats of northern summers and reviving 14% of the farm sector, monsoon plays a crucial role in India's socio-economic development. As the time for the much-awaited summer monsoon in India approaches, here comes the not-so-welcome prediction from SkyMet, country's lone private weather forecaster. According to SkyMet, El Nino weather pattern will resurface in this June, which will be reducing India's rainfall this year.
पिछले साल मानसून नॉर्मल रहा था, 97% रहा था, तो इस बार हमें उम्मीद है कि बिलो नॉर्मल रहने के चांस हैं। उसका रीजन ये है कि अभी एल नीनो इस समय आने की उम्मीद है। इस समय न्यूट्रल कंडीशन चल रही है, धीरे-धीरे एल नीनो आएगा।
According to the reports, while June is expected to receive normal rainfall, El Nino's effect would be visible from July. The forecast of below-average monsoon rains raises concern for the farmers cultivating crops such as rice, cane, soybean and cotton, which are heavily dependent on the monsoon rains. El Nino, which means little boy in Spanish, is a periodic weather system comprising warm ocean water temperatures. El Nino develops and repeats itself after a gap of 3 to 7 years in the tropical eastern Pacific Ocean and usually lasts for about 12 to 18 months on an average. El Nino has a direct effect on the rainfall in India during monsoon. El Nino waned in 2016, leading to above-average monsoons and snapped 2 straight years of drought that had cut farm output and farmers' income. When El Nino occurs, there is a change in wind pattern that in turn reduces rainfall in the Indian subcontinent during June to September. Last time Indian monsoon rains were hit by El Nino weather pattern in 2009, when the 4-month-long monsoon season turned the driest in nearly 4 decades.
According to a report by the Global Burden of Diseases, 2015 saw 13 lakh people succumbing to diarrhea. What is more unfortunate is that 5 lakh among them were children below 5 years of age, and the maximum number of victims were from India. Now, joining hands together to fight diarrhea are Haliman Laboratory and NICED. Well, the two organizations have signed a MOU for the development and distribution of anti-diarrhea vaccines at low cost.
Often dismissed as a non-serious and easily cured ailment, diarrhea is a major cause of concern in many of the developing countries, including India. It would be shocking to many to know that diarrhea assumes the third place in terms of child mortality in our country. It is estimated that over 2 lakh children succumb to diarrhea annually in India. The situation calls for new therapies and vaccines to prevent the infections, which, if left untreated, can assume epidemic proportions. Towards this end, Hillman Laboratories, a joint venture partnership between MSD and Wellcome Trust, recently signed an agreement with the National Institute of Cholera and Enteric Diseases under the aegis of ICMR. The signing event held at the capital was presided over by Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Director General of ICMR and Secretary, Department of Health Research, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. Dr. Shanta Datta, Director, NICED, and Dr. Davinder Gill, Chief Executive Officer, Hillman Labs.
This is regarding one candidate, the candidate vaccine what NICED has developed in the lab. So with this collaboration, we are able to take the vaccine with all testing, all the preclinical tests and toxicity testing. We are able to take this vaccine to the for the use of the public.
Laboratories will really be responsible for all of the development work associated with this vaccine. So all of the work that's actually needed to take this vaccine from where it is today, which is the research stage, into the clinical stage. So that involves a lot of process development, manufacture, formulation, a lot of the toxicology, and then all of the clinical trials and the clinical studies that are going to be needed. So all of that will actually be done by Hillman Labs, and we will be working in collaboration with NICED and with ICMR to make that happen.
According to reports, the key focus of this vaccine development program is shigellosis, one of the leading causes of death and casualties among under 5 children with bloody diarrhea. As of now, there are no vaccines to prevent shigellosis, and the pathogen is fast developing resistance to the existing antibiotics used. Under this venture, while experts at NICED will contribute in terms of research and development at strategies for treatment, prevention and control of enteric infections, the news has been welcomed by medical practitioners worldwide, as shigellosis is fast becoming a global threat, claiming about 1.3 million lives in 2015 alone.
Established in 1934 by Sir C.V. Raman, the Indian Academy of Sciences is a premier organization involved in promoting science and technology in the country. Well, along these lines, to inspire more interest in science and technology, the Academy recently launched a book, C.V. Raman, a memoir. The book has been authored by renowned physicist Professor A. Jairam, who has been a student of Sir C.V. Raman himself.
Any person with a basic background in science, while gazing into deep blue ocean, would associate the color to one person. Yes, while the blue color of the sea must have been observed by countless men, it took the genius of Sir C.V. Raman to decipher the phenomenon of scattering of light, the Raman effect as it came to be known. While the scientific capabilities of Sir C.V. Raman are well known among the research community, here comes an inspirational book that tries to examine the vibrant personality of Sir C.V. Raman close up. The book, C.V. Raman, a memoir, was recently launched by the Indian Academy of Sciences, Bengaluru. The book has been authored by Dr. A. Jayaraman, a pioneering physicist and a student of Sir C.V. Raman.
I have read and reread the book many times in the last 3 decades, and it was always an uplifting experience. This book is an easy way to get to know Raman's contributions to science and his colorful personality. I am very happy that the second edition of the Raman memoir is being published by the Indian Academy of Sciences.
The book was launched on 24th March 2017 at the Raman Research Institute, Bangalore by Dr. K. Kasturi Rangan, former president of the Indian Academy of Sciences. The presidents of all the 3 science academies of the country, Professor Ram Ramaswamy, Indian Academy of Sciences, Professor Ajay K. Sood, Indian National Science Academy, and Professor Anil Kakorkar, the National Academy of Sciences, India, were present on the occasion. The launch also saw the enthusiastic participation of many invited dignitaries across the country. According to reports, the book C.V. Raman, a memoir, is an authentic and authoritative narration of the life and science of Sir C.V. Raman and aspires to serve as an inspiration for the new generation of engineers and researchers.
Crop harvesting is an elaborate process which leads to a lots of wastage. Well, the wastage is both in terms of grains as well as crop stubble, which otherwise can be used for other purposes such as fodder and fertilizers. While keeping this in mind, a farmer has now developed a unique combined harvester that multitasks to minimize wastage.
Post-harvest disposal of crop stubble is a huge concern among both farmers and public. After harvest, the stubble remains in the ground and the easiest way to dispose it is to burn them in the ground before sowing the next crop. While the practice of crop stubble burning adversely affects soil fertility, it is also immensely harmful to the environment. But as of now, there are no effective measures to counter this. But now, an innovative solution to the disposal of post-harvest stubble seems possible with the modified combined harvester. The device has been developed by Mr. Surendra Prasad, a farmer himself from Sant Kabir Nagar, Uttar Pradesh.
ये मशीन गेहूं की फसल को जड़ से काटता है, तो 2 इंच ऊपर से ज़मीन से 2 इंच ऊपर से काटता है और ये साथ में मड़ाई भी करता है और भूसा अनाज दोनों अलग अलग करके किसान को दे देता है। किसान का 98% फसल का 98% जो है रिकवरी करके बना करके किसान को दे देता है। इस मशीन से काटने पर कोई खेत में अवशेष नहीं बचता है जो किसान को जलाना पड़े या फूंकना पड़े, तो उससे जो पर्यावरण हमारा नुकसान हो रहा था वो अब ये इस मशीन से काटने पर कोई पर्यावरण का नुकसान नहीं होगा।
The modified combined harvester extracts the crop from its roots and is a 2-in-1 machine that simultaneously separates grains and hay. The machine has different chambers to separate grains and hay, specially designed to minimize wastage. While the grain chamber has a capacity of 8 quintals, the hay chamber has a capacity of 6 to 8 quintals. This modified harvester can harvest crops in a hectare of land within an hour. While agricultural technologies have seen major developments in the last few decades, there still exists a need for novel technologies to make agricultural processes easy and profitable.
And right now we'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more science news. Keep watching Science Monitor. Health healthcare is the primary parameter to assess the development of a nation. Well, a robust healthcare system is necessary to ensure healthy citizens and productivity. But along these lines, the government has recently launched its national healthcare policy. Well, it is expected that with the policy, citizens will not only have free access to health facilities, but will also have coverage under health insurance. So what all are the features of the national health policy? Well, we will discuss all those in detail. But first, let us take a look at this report.
Health is wealth. The age-old quote is applicable not only for individuals but collectively for nations as well. For healthy citizens are, needless to say, more productive and contribute to the overall growth of a nation. And ensuring accessible and affordable healthcare to the citizens has to be a priority of any ruling government. Along these lines, the nation recently saw the approval of the much-awaited National Health Policy 2017.
For the sick care health policy. Now we are making it preventive health policy.
The major focus of the National Health Policy of 2017 is affordable and accessible healthcare for all, and hence tries to integrate both preventative and promotive methods without placing anyone under financial constraints. The focus, besides being non-communicable diseases, are also mental health, geriatric healthcare, palliative care and rehabilitative care services. The blueprint of the policy has a three-tiered roadmap for strengthening the healthcare system and setting up of primary healthcare centers, along with seeking sustainable healthcare solutions, efficient surveillance and innovative mechanisms for healthcare financing. A major feature of the National Health Policy 2017 is the introduction of health insurance programs to save patients from financial constraints. The policy also has a provision for upgrading the district and public health centers, training of health personnel that will be deployed in rural areas, enhancing the knowledge base required for better health, digitizing health records, and investment in research. The policy, which aims to increase life expectancy from 67.5 to 70 years by 2025, also aims to ensure availability of 2 beds per 1,000 population distributed in a manner through health and wellness centers.
Well, to discuss in detail the National Health Policy, we have with us today Mr. Aman Gupta, the country representative of Partnership to Fight Chronic Diseases and the founder of SPAG. Mr. Gupta, welcome to our show. Mr. Gupta, as we all know that the Union Cabinet has passed the National Health Policy. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called it a historic moment. How do you think this policy could be a game changer?
Thank you, Aishwarya, for having me here. And I do agree with our Prime Minister Modi that this is a historic policy, and that we can say for a couple of reasons. One, if we just look at the way India is evolving, it will change in the next 15 years. So what are the diseases which are affected by the patients right now will be very different from what may be there in the 15 years. So therefore, it's very important for us to look at a policy which is not just present ready, but it is also future ready. And therefore, this particular policy will give a direction and a framework to the policy makers on what kind of an execution strategies can they develop to make India ready to fight its disease problems of the future.
All right.
Second is that it's also allowing and assuring the people of India that they will have an access to not just affordable, but also quality health care across drugs, diagnostics. And the third part is, I think, which is very, very critical, is the focus on the preventive healthcare part of it. Because till now it was largely focused on the curative care, but now the policy simply defined that the larger focus will be on the preventive healthcare part of it, which for a country like India, which is a 1.3 billion population, can really change the way our health of our population looks like in the future.
And this policy definitely aims to strengthen India's healthcare system. But what are the novel programs under this policy?
Well, if you look at the key programs or the key takeaways from the things, the one part is the focus on the non-communicable diseases. Okay. If you look at the health policy which was there in the past versus the policy as has emerged on in 2017, one of the key differentiators is that there is a strong talk and a policy shift towards non-communicable diseases, which as we know right now affects 60% of the India's population. So that's a huge shift in the policy side of it. Second is strengthening of the primary healthcare system. I think that's an extension of the focus on the preventive part of the healthcare. So the PHCs, which constitute at the district level the first point of contact for any person who is sick, will be further strengthened. The third part is the increase in the spend. So the government has recognized the fact that they do need to spend much more on the health. So therefore, by 2025, increasing the GDP spend on health from current 1.1% to 2.5% is a crucial shift, and that can really be a game changer there. And I think the fourth and the last one is recognition of the role of the private sector. So government does realize that if it has to deliver health to everybody in India, it has to work in partnership with the private sector. And I think that's a great move.
And you mentioned about the effect that this policy is going to have on our GDP. But, you know, looking at the other sectors as well, which are connected to the healthcare sector, what can be the changes in those sectors?
Well, if we look at the other sectors which are related, so we can look at from the economic side of it. As we know that in the current context, if we do not take health in our hand and starts to really sort of focus on it, India could lose anything from a $5 trillion to a $13 trillion in economic value in the next 15 years.
Yes.
So the overall economic growth of the country is related to the health part of it. So therefore, the increase in the spend will be pretty much offset with the kind of the growth which the economy can see. The second is in terms of the infrastructural growth, the skill development part of it, which are the other two areas which are of primary importance for the government. I think it will have a huge role to play. Because of the spend, we will be spending more on the infrastructure part of it. Also ensuring that the people stay where they are. They don't need to come to the bigger cities to seek healthcare. So I think that will be another big driver in the other ministry and other sectors for us.
But Mr. Gupta, one very important question, where will the resources come from? Because, you know, if you look at the budgetary allocation of the healthcare entire industry, if we look at these novel programs that the policy has envisaged, the big question is where will those resources really come from?
Well, I think, Aishwarya, that is really one of the big questions which comes in terms of where will the financing comes. And I think the government and various other institutions, and I have been part of that in the past, is looking at multiple ways for it. As I said in my previous reply, the role of the private sector will become crucial, and the private sector can bring in funds specifically from infrastructure building, from bringing in the technologies. I think that's a role which it could play. There is also a larger conversation which is happening about certain taxations which could possibly happen. As we know, we have a cess which is there for Clean India, and there is a possibility of having a conversation which could be also about Healthy India. I think that could be another area. Also, as we know, there are certain areas which are what we call as a non-health areas, you know, whether it is a tobacco or alcohol, looking at a higher taxation from there, and what has been discussed largely the sin tax, that could also add to the financing. But more important than that is, I think, mainstreaming of the larger population through initiatives like Aadhaar, bringing in the larger changes in the taxation side of it, where we are getting more and more people part of the taxation will sort of increase the larger pie which we may have. And within that pie, therefore, giving a much more funds to healthcare will be easier.
All right, so the Union Cabinet also in the end has admitted that a policy is only as good as its implementation. So we hope that the policy, which aims to implement a framework and complete with deliverables as well as milestones, will deliver on all its commitments. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Gupta, for taking time out to share your valuable insights with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that is all for today, but we'll be back with fresh news stories on science and technology again next week. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.